Okay, we're
My
live.
God,
What's up, Ben? How's it going?
dude, this thing smells so good. Things are good, man. How are you?
I'm in an air-conditioned building. How about you?
I'm in a air-conditioned Arizona, 100-degree outdoor environment. So about the same.
100 degrees. Wow. Well, as usual, we're going to let everyone join in. I think we have a really exciting show tonight. Um, we have, of course, Casa Cuevas. We have Luis and Alec from Casa Cuevas, and it's going to be a great event. This is a company that we've worked with for a long time. I'm trying to remember. You asked when we sent the stick that you're smoking right now, which there's a really good story behind it. I can't wait to hear that from Luis. But we've been working with them for a long time, and we're really excited. But before we start giving too much, getting too far into it, we have some deals going on tonight. Um, let's see. I'm getting ahead of myself. First of all, everyone that's joined us tonight, thank you. If this is your first time, please make sure to like and subscribe. We're going to be doing these hopefully every Friday night for quite some time, and there's some more exciting things coming to our YouTube channel. Um, if you have watched before, thank you for coming back. Everything that we are selling tonight is available on luxurycigarclub.com, and we have a really great deal going on tonight with Casa Cuevas. So if you purchase any 5 Casa Cuevas cigars from the Luxury Cigar Club website, you're going to get 2 free. And if you purchase any 20 Casa Cuevas cigars, you're going to get 7 cigars free. Now, that doesn't stack. If you buy 10, you're still only going to get 2. And if you buy 40, we might give you 14. So buy 40. That's the way to go, I think. But again, all that's available at luxurycigarclub.com. Also, we are giving away a couple prizes to the best questions of the night. I think we have 2 Casa Cuevas t-shirts to the 2 best questions of the night. So we're going to give a few more minutes to get some people joining in. I already have some people join here. We have Adrian, Luxury Cigar Club member. What's up, Adrian? We have Kevin from the East Coast. What's up, Kevin? Jeff, what's going on, Jeff? And AE 1250 CCDER, that's a name. What's up? Luxury Cigar Club is literally the best. I can't agree more with you. So, Ben, what are you smoking?
Well, I'm smoking Casa Cuevas, a Maduro Flaco, which is their limited edition. That let me show a nice picture of it if you can. Can I do this thing? There we go.
Yep, we can
Download
see
that
it.
from YouTube, which is a delicious and amazingly constructed cigar that unfortunately is not really available anymore. But we'll hear the story about it in a second.
Okay.
Just trying to do something on my phone for a second. So I
All
forgot to
right.
do
Well,
the.
we're gonna go ahead and get Lewis and Alec. And oh, wait, you didn't ask me what I was smoking.
Anybody care? What are you smoking, Chris?
I'm smoking the mine. I just cracked it because I dropped it, so ignore that. But I'm smoking the Cuevas Connecticut Robusto. This is actually probably still one of my favorite Connecticut's on the market. I dropped this thing so hard right before I lit it, and it just cracked. I feel terrible. But okay, now that we've done that, let's get Lewis and Alec in here. No one wants to listen to us talk anymore. What's up, guys? Welcome to the show.
How are
Hey,
you guys? Hi, everybody out there. What a
how
pleasure.
are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Very good. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us.
So, what are you guys smoking? We'll start with that.
We're smoking some things, right? I am smoking a Casa Cuevas Maduro Robusto, and I got the Cuevas Reserva Natural.
Okay,
You can tell
fantastic.
the Connecticut is smoking. Yeah,
Fantastic. And you guys are coming to us from Florida, right?
Miami. Good old Miami.
Miami. So,
Yes.
what's the weather in Miami right now?
Right now it's not too bad. It's maybe low 80s, really high humidity. The day was actually very pretty. Got into the 90s. A lot of humidity. It's always a lot of humidity. But the day hasn't been bad. It hasn't been bad. Not terrible, considering.
Good. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining us. As we always say, we appreciate when you guys can take the time out of your day or your evening. I know Lewis texted me and said, "Hey, what time is this going to end? We have a big dinner this evening." I'm like, "Don't worry, man. We're going to get you fed." But we appreciate it. So why don't we start? Why don't you guys just kind of introduce yourselves? Anyone that doesn't know about you, give us a little background and a little history there.
Well, I'll let Alec talk about Alec. My family's been around doing this for, with Alec, it's 5 generations. My great-grandfather immigrated from Spain as a boy, essentially, and wound up in Pinar del Rio, Cuba. If you look at the little map, it's the westernmost tipping part of the island. So it's tobacco country. And he was a farmer in Spain. So his family were farmers as well, or I guess my ancestors were farmers. In any event, he winds up in tobacco. My grandfather takes it over, does very well. And then in 1959, Fidel Castro confiscates everything, and we fled shortly after I was born. We wound up going to the States 1970, been here ever since. And although my dad started doing something completely different, started a different business, and that thrives, one of his brothers wanted to pursue the tobacco aspect of it. And in the Dominican Republic, they started a factory called Cuevas Cigars, Luis Cuevas and Brothers. And this was mid-'80s. By 97, my father was 100% over there with my uncle, and that's when the boom hit. And it was just a phenomenal time. I remember as a young man by then, I was already married, but in the 80s, when they first got there, as a high schooler, it was the coolest thing on earth, except I wasn't smoking cigars at all. Go figure. But as luck would have it, or I guess as lucky was for me, my dad and my uncle went their separate ways in early 2000s, and then by 2009, I had joined my father 100% with the factory, given my career and everything else, and I just did that. And then fast forward to 2016, and we launched the brand. It took that long because I wasn't sure how to do it, and I'm still not sure I'm doing the right thing. I'm just trying to figure it out as I go, right? But we had to because of the FDA and the stupid regulations and whatnot. So we launched it, and here we are 3 years later, essentially. So even though it was launched 2016, it didn't make its appearance until April 2017. So April 2020, now COVID time, we hit our 3-year anniversary, and we spent it in seclusion, but we made it. And along that way, when my son started working at Neptune Cigar Shop, which is a local cigar shop here in Florida, he started really getting into cigars as well. And as luck would have it, he's 21 now, and now he's 100% into the family. So, fifth generation. And I always say this caveat because I got to be the dutiful dad. He's going to college full time. He's getting a degree in accounting. That's important to us in my family. So I don't want him putting all of his eggs in this basket especially because of the FDA. Really, I don't know where this is going to wind up. So I'd like him to have, if he wants to pursue it, great. But that insurance policy is important to me as a father, that he has some other career. Whatever he wants to choose, just something else to fall back on, just in case it doesn't work. So,
and to piggyback on that, it's something that I definitely want to pursue. I've been surrounded by cigars growing up. I wasn't there during the 80s, I was born. But cigars have always been a very big part of my life. We would take trips to the Dominican Republic for the summer, and my father would take the family over to the factory. And we'd see my grandfather working, we'd see everybody there blowing the cigars, packaging them. So it's something I've always been surrounded by and I've had a love for. Going back to 2016, when we launched the brand, came out in 2017, one of the first cigars I ever smoked was our core line, actually, Casa Cuevas Maduro prototype. It was on New Year's Eve. It was me, when my dad's sitting, my fathers were all sitting, and my grandfather looked over and he says, "Hey, have you ever smoked a cigar?" I said, "No, because I've never smoked a cigar." And he says, "Why don't you try this one?" And then he gave me the prototype, which was phenomenal. I absolutely loved the way this cigar came out. I think it's a wonderful product. But with that in mind, I always have to bring this up. I got about halfway through before I started feeling easy. I didn't know how to properly smoke a cigar because they failed to mention you're not supposed to inhale. So because of which, I felt a little sick in my stomach that I couldn't finish it rather. But with that in mind, it started off with me and my infatuation with cigars going forward. So I worked with Neptune for around 11 months, and then I ended up.
Oh, I think I think we lost them. Yeah, maybe a connection issue. So we'll do a little commercial while we're trying to figure that out. But we're doing a cut and light with Casa Cuevas Cigars. You purchase any 5 cigars, you're going to get 2 free. You purchase any 20 cigars, you're going to get 7 free from Casa Cuevas. All that's available at Luxury Cigar Club. And hopefully we get Luis and Alec back soon. Looks like,
there we go.
Are you back?
The Wi-Fi signal is strong here. I don't have any other way of doing it from out here. But if we have to move inside, we'll move inside, guys. So I don't want to ruin this for anybody. I just can't smoke inside the house.
It's okay. It's a commercial break.
All right,
Yeah,
so
We can work with that.
We just did a commercial, so it's fine. But
Okay, and the next commercial.
breaking up. There we go.
Yeah, I think you're in and out still, guys. Anyway, we'll keep doing our.
This
we'll keep
COVID,
doing our-
everybody's home, everybody's on the internet, and it's been terrible. Even here, even for us, but all over the country for sure. Oh,
Yeah, there's a problem, and you're right. Everybody's on the internet. It's tough right now.
very tough.
Yeah.
Let's show this beautiful
Yeah.
ash.
That cigar's got to be over a year old now, Ben.
In my humidor, it's probably been a year. No, more than that. I think we set
More than
it
that.
out more than that in my humidor.
Mhm.
And how long has it been aged before? Was it post roll aged?
Yeah, for a few months, but the theft itself took place in February
Let's
of last year. Yeah,
tell us the story.
and that's what I do the timeline, right? I know when it was stolen, so I knew therefore beyond that you haven't been able to get it. So anyway, yeah, roll back. What do you guys want to talk about? The theft.
Let's talk
Tell
about
us-
the theft. Yeah,
The theft. Tell us about the theft.
All right,
the heist.
the heist, and I can smile about it now, but boy, that was painful. So we eventually, very early on, we move out of the location that we had, and we buy a building, and we bought the building in December of 2018, and we refurbish it, we remodel it, and in 2019 January we move in. Can you guys hear me? You guys good? You there?
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Okay, great.
good.
Just
Great.
giving you the.
Perfect. So
Stage.
February 2000, February, actually Valentine's Day, give or take, 15th or so, of 2019, I get a call that something's gone awry in the alleyway behind where the warehouse is. And the guy that called me owns a warehouse behind ours. And he goes, I think there's a bunch of cigars strewn all over the place. Long story short, thieves broke in through the wall and wiped us completely out of all stock that was here in Miami. And the way they did it was, we had an alarm, and we have an alarm in the bay door of this warehouse, in the front door of the warehouse, in the back door in the alleyway of the warehouse. But the humidor, we installed it juxtaposed against the very back for space saving purposes. What these cats did is, over the course of 5 hours, and that's how long it was, because there were cameras everywhere capturing these guys. 5 hours, 7 guys broke a hole through the concrete, cut into the humidor, and then wiped everything out. All stock was gone. I was uninsured at the time. We had just gotten in January, and I was waiting to get fire extinguishers and whatnot. Anyway, I was dragging my butt, and I got bit by it. But notwithstanding that, we were able to recoup the core line because I called my father, and I got to give him credit. He didn't bat an eye. By that Friday, we were restocked with a lot of stuff. But the flacos, the one Ben's enjoying right now, that flaco were limited. I had made 500 boxes. They were named after this skinny guy here, flaco. That's what it means in Spanish. They were limited to 500 boxes in the Maduro and the Habano, 10-count boxes, and they were numbered, 1 to 500, 2 500, etc. When they were sent to us from the factory, they were out of sequence. So I had no way of knowing which box was sold to whom, which numbers were missing. I couldn't replicate them. And in fairness to somebody, let's say like Ben, say he buys a box and he buys box 45 out of 500 of the Maduro. Well, I can't replicate another 45 out of 500. There's only one 45 out of 500. So we were essentially out of that stock, and that was a huge hit. We had stuff left at the factory, thank God, of those flacos. But once those came over to the States, they were sold immediately, actually. And That's it. So you're smoking essentially. It's like spotting. I don't know.
It's a relic.
The Yeti, or you know, it's
Yeah,
odd.
it was.
It's hard the following it's received, right? So
It's my last one, and I was like, I want to keep it, but I'm like, but what better occasion to smoke it than with you
That's awesome.
guys? And
That's awesome.
and really, one staple I can say about Casa Cuevas is the construction and the draw of each cigar. I don't think I've ever had a dud. I think they're all absolutely perfectly constructed. And
I just need I need you guys to make them drop proof so that I don't do that anymore.
but it's moving along fine. You're doing fine. Yeah,
It's actually look at that burn that crack was all the way through that. That's impressive. It's handling it well.
Besides, Chris, if you can't smoke it anymore and it goes to heck, I know a guy. I get you another one. Don't worry about it. I know a guy.
You know what? This was all me. If it was a cigar, you might say something, but I was sitting here and I was like looking at it and I just dropped it out of my hands and I'm like, wow, what the heck? But
we need the bubble wrap on the.
That's a good idea.
So tell us a little bit. 5 generations in the industry, okay? But the line itself is 3 years or 4 years old.
3 years old this April 1st. My grandmother's birthday, April 1st. 3 years.
So what has the Cuevas family done the first 5 generations basically? I mean, what the line is new.
The line is new. The first 2 generations were tobacco farmers, and my great grandfather, as I mentioned, was successful with it. My grandfather really blew it up, from what I understand. Well, to the point where it was confiscated, right? So he was doing very well as a tobacco producer, not a manufacturer. But yet, the way it was done back then, within the farms themselves, people were rolling cigars. So my dad tells the tale. It's 5 brothers and 5 sisters, and my dad was born in 1938, so different time, right? So keep that in mind when I tell the story. But the boys, my grandmother would roll little, almost like cigarillos for them out of raw tobacco, and in elementary school they were smoking essentially cigars. That's back when cigarettes were not harmful and pregnant women were smoking them and all that nonsense, right? So he grew up kind of doing that. As I mentioned earlier, when my uncle came to the States and decided to go to the Dominican Republic, it was to be a cigar manufacturer. It's a different ballgame. So my dad invested in that, and they were doing that together. They had at one point lands, but those were sold, and ultimately, in the Dominican Republic anyway, if you farm tobacco for the most part, you're going to get filler, and then really, in terms of wrapper, that becomes a whole different chore. So that's why we buy a wrapper, let's say from Ecuador or Brazil or Mexico, and Dominican will give you some filler, and Nicaragua will give you so forth, right? In any event, they got out of that, but the factory kept going. And then when the boom hit, Carlos Tarano, you guys I'm sure are familiar with that brand if you've been a smoker for any period of time. The guy's an institution. Carlos Tarano, very good friends with my father and my uncle. The very first Taranos were made at my factory, well, my dad's factory with my uncle. And then he was able to bring in some really cool clients. I mean, they manufactured cigars for Dunhill, Peterson of Dublin, the original Villigers. The very first Gurkhas were made there, the ones that were infused. La Perla Habana, Doug Wood out of California, he came by there. So when the boom was going, we were booming. And a big shout out to Carlos Tarano Sr. for having done that. And then eventually, business evolved. He went on his own, but the factory stayed, and we kept producing for other people. And then my dad and my uncle went their separate ways. My dad stayed with the factory. I joined him in 2009, mostly out of, I think at the time what motivated me, I'm an only child, and my father was about to wait for his investment return and come back to the States and call it a day. And I remember sitting with him saying, I flew over to the Dominican Republic that night. I went for a one-night trip because the next day I had to come back to work. And I said, I think that this is a shame to let this go. Grandpa did it, great-grandpa did it, you've done it, I'd like to do it. So, you know, I bought a chunk of it with my savings. I got to give credit to my wife. I flew back and I said, hey, I'm going to buy a piece of this thing that's really making no money at this point. My dad was on his own. And we eventually started landing new clients, and then here we are. So manufacturing, and growing tobacco for 4 generations essentially, and now the brand is what's here. So I hope that answers your question.
No, absolutely. What I mean, can you tell us who you manufacture for now?
Now there's very few that are left, right? So Gurkha is our biggest customer. All the solid reserves except the platinum are made there. A lot of the stuff for CI is made there. We do stuff for a very small brand, which is a phenomenal brand out of Ohio called Vicarious. They do the Vicarious and Invictus. We do their line too. But what's happened with, I got to throw a shout out to Bowtie Cigars. Yeah, he's out of Illinois, very small guy, but a passionate individual about cigars. And his brand, you'll see it around. But what's happening a lot is when the FDA crackdown came, every year, for years, we would have 5 or 6 people pursuing their dream of having a cigar line. And that ended in a hurry once this came up because people don't know what it's going to cost them to sit there and really, literally, they don't know what it's going to cost them to come out with a line. So the investment then becomes sort of troublesome. How do you invest in something you're not sure is going to even go forward? Not because of bad business, but because of the government. So,
yeah.
You were going to ask a question.
We got a couple
Let me
more.
ask you a question that I've never asked it before, but just because the factory is producing for others as well, I'm gonna put you on the spot. What makes Casa Cuevas Cigars? What's your claim to fame? What makes you guys so good?
That's a good question. That's a good question. And when we like to use, okay, 2 things. Let me start with the easy answer. The easy answer is when you come to my factory and I'm going to produce a cigar for you. For example, we did San Lucia Black some time ago. Well, that was all Sam's blend. Sam chose the blend. We made his cigars. Vicarious, those folks, 3 guys at that time, those 3 gentlemen came. They chose their blend. We made their cigar. So when we made Casa Cuevas, it tastes nothing like anything else that's being made in that factory, number one. In terms of quality, we do quality for everybody across the board, right? Because the rollers don't know who they're rolling for. They're rolling cigars. We tell them you're going to roll this, and they're going to roll it. It has no name on it until it's finished. So they're going to do the very best they can, right? Again, it's a man-made thing. But we've been very cognizant of distinguishing ourselves from the other flavor profiles of stuff we make. And there's a special project which we'll probably talk about later that Chris and I touched upon. That project, that particular wrapper that I'm going to be using, we're not using it for anyone else, nor will I. So there are certain things that I sort of keep for myself, and only because I beat people to the punch, right? I've never been asked to use it before. So what sets it apart really is flavor profile. Quality-wise, I think we've got to do the very best we can across the board. And with the flavor, we'll use certain tobaccos that maybe other people haven't asked for. I use a lot of Colombian tobacco in all of my blends. I like it. A little bit of it, but it's sweet and a little bit of spice to it. Well, no one else has ever asked for it. I like it, so I use it. There's little things and little nuances. It's a bit of a conflict of interest sometimes. I remember when Plasencia came out with his cigars. I remember he talked to my dad and he says, this is going to create some chaos because I produce so many cigars for so many people that this may cause some kickback from some of my customers, forgive me. But in the end, even the folks that we manufacture for understood that with the FDA looming, I had no choice. It was either then or never. So we did. But I do try to keep it a completely different flavor profile than the others. But if you look at when we came out with the sizes for Casa Cuevas, it was all very, very methodical, right? So I studied it, and the 3 best-selling sizes in the United States of America, which is my market, were Robusto, Toro, and a 6x60, which I don't care for, but those are the 3 sizes. 3 wrappers you had to have: Maduro, an Habano, and a Connecticut. Now, what you chose with the Maduro or not, we went with San Andres, which, by the way, no one else in our
thing.
They weren't using it. So again, we try to sort of nuance it a little bit. the Connecticut, the initial one that Chris is smoking, that we came out with, is a little maybe more, there's a little more of a kick, let's say, than your typical boring Connecticut. Boring's the wrong word to use, folks. I'm sorry. Macanudo's still probably the number one.
Run of the mill. Run of the mill.
Yeah, I guess, right? And then when we did the Reserve of Connecticut, again, we amped it up a little bit. Understanding that, listen, not everybody's going to love my cigars, but I understand that. But we're trying to put up a good product. We're also very careful with rebanding stuff and coming out with the same product, right? So changing the packaging, come out with the same thing. So it's the same Connecticut twice over. Listen, and you guys know I'm not blowing smoke. They're completely different cigars. I mean, Maduros are completely different cigars. The Habano that we have now, we're going to change it to something else. That's going to be a completely different cigar. So that's pretty much it. I don't know. I mean, it's worked so far, and also if you've noticed, my line is kind of limited. That's done on purpose. Having a factory come out with 8,000 Vitolas and a bunch of different things, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to just come out with 3 sizes, 3 wrappers, kept it simple. Came up with a Flaco limited edition, kept it simple. Our Casa Cuevas Reserva line, again, simple. You got a Maduro, you got a Connecticut, 3 sizes. Sort of keeping everything simple. I don't want to overwhelm as a new brand the consumer, so he goes up to a wall and it looks like a Perdomo wall, which God bless him, right? But he's got 8,000 choices. That becomes overwhelming, even to me. So, and I know he is where he is right now because of the number of years that he's been at it. Again, I'm not knocking him. But that's just not the way I think I wanted to start the brand. So we kept it very, very simple, very easy for the consumer to say, okay, do I want a Connecticut? Here's 3 sizes. Or an Habano, here's 3 sizes. Maduro, 3 sizes. Then we came out with a box press, we expanded a little bit, but that's what we've been doing. It's been working, but it's organically grown. So we've grown very, very slowly, but I'm happy with the pace, notwithstanding COVID, at which we've grown.
Good. No, that's great. A couple more folks join. We have Carlos Moreno. Now Carlos is a Luxury Cigar Club member and a relative of yours, correct?
And
Carlos is my mother's first cousin. One of my mother's first cousins. Yeah. I grew up with Carlitos. Yep.
And an amazing guy. What an amazing guy. Got Mario. What's up? Tony's here. Chris is here. The Bakersfield gentleman says it was a pleasure meeting you guys at TPE.
Well, pleasure meeting you.
You got Willie Joran. Cuevas cigars are fire. Now they're just talking to each other. What's up, Alec? How about a Flaco second edition? He says.
What about it?
We'll think about it. We'll think about it.
It's not a thought that hasn't crossed our minds when we released our first limited edition version of the Flaco.
So we'll think about it. But
maybe with a third band that says Luxury Cigar Club.
That's it. Why not? We can talk about it.
Is the Flaco second edition a cigar or like a brother? I wonder. Let's clarify that question a little bit. No, that's fantastic. So guys, we're just going to do a quick commercial real quick because we're trying this new thing out, and you get just me. Look at that. That's really cool. So remember, if you buy any 5 Casa Cuevas cigars, you're going to get 2 free. Purchase any 20 Casa Cuevas cigars, you're going to get 7 free. All that's available at luxurycigarclub.com, and that is only available while we are live. Also, the best 2 questions of the night are going to win a T-shirt from Casa Cuevas. It's probably like the one you're wearing right there, Louis, I'm assuming.
Exactly.
Right? Awesome.
Exactly like it, yeah.
Louis is going to pick one winner, and Alec is going to pick another winner. You can ask as many questions as you want to get more entries into that poll. We are excluding Tony from winning tonight because I got you anyway, Tony, but you can still ask questions that you want answered. So what else, Ben? What's next on the list here?
Next on the list, we can start asking questions and see where it goes. These shirts are great. Actually, I did pick up one at Puro when I was there. When you guys were there,
yeah,
I made Brandon give me one. Basically, he wasn't looking, so that's how I made it. And they're really nice, and they're really soft and comfortable. So
yeah, they are.
Besides the fact that they look awesome.
Smoking Ronnie.
So Our first question comes from Smokin' Ronnie, which is one of our members, awesome guy. He asks if the Cuevas factory in Miami does tours. Well, the factory is not in Miami. The warehouse is in Miami.
Yes.
But does the factory do tours for the public? Does the warehouse do tours? He's wanting to go to Miami in 2021 and tour a few of the cigar factories.
I'll tell you what. I mean, the tour of my warehouse is pretty limited. But if Ronnie wants to visit the warehouse, have a cigar with us, and I'll show him around, and he can see the packaging department. He can see our humidor. We can have a cigar. I can have an espresso maker in the back. Have some Cuban coffee. Absolutely, my friend. And if
coffee,
I mean, yeah, I mean it. I do mean it. So yeah, you're welcome to come by and knock on the door and come on in, man. Absolutely. The factory itself, we're in a duty-free zone, and yes, people are allowed there. Normally, when people want to sit there and visit, they'll let me know ahead of time, and I'll tell my dad, and my dad will wait for them, and he'll give them a tour. I mean, we don't do full-on tours with buses, get off, and everything else. But if an individual says, "I'm in Santiago, and I'm a fan of your cigars, and I'd love to see your factory," the answer is always yes. Always yes.
Also, if you want a tour of the warehouse and it's late, apparently you can come through the alley in the back. You can go straight in the humidor and check everything out.
Yeah, you know what, Ben? The wall that was repaired, it still hasn't been painted, so that's part of the tour. I'll take you out. And by the way, the bricks that were broken, they're still lying in that area, in that common area, which is, I'm paying home association fee. They should flip and pick it up. But anyway, it's all there. So,
So just look for the unpainted portion, and that's the humidor.
Yeah.
Let's go back to that, because the La Mandaria actually came. It's the child of this misfortune, right? So it's like the phoenix from the ashes, right?
Truly.
Tell us a little bit about it, because I know all about it, but maybe not everyone does.
Well, we going back to that loss that we couldn't recoup on those flacos, that monetary cost was one that we couldn't get back just selling the other cigars, right? So again, I got back product, but that I couldn't replace. So we're trying to dust ourselves off and try to make light out of this whole situation as best we could. And my son says, listen, if we're going to do a pun on this somehow, let's use a name a cigar with the principal tool used, because he used a sledgehammer to break through. So the sledgehammer was born essentially out of that adversity, right? And then it sort of fit the mold, the name itself, of my dad's attitude when I called him, because I called him devastated, and he essentially didn't bat an eye. I mean, he was, obviously it's on the phone, but his demeanor, everything was okay. Hey, cool. You guys are safe. Everything good. We've got cigars here still. We got some boxes. We'll order some more. We'll get your stuff over there, and by Friday you should have it, because it was on a Monday. And sure enough, that was it. It wasn't, oh, what do we do now? Oh, well, with me, none of that nonsense. So very steadfast, very sledgehammer-ish, like, I guess, with his resilience. And so, the thing was born. And it's really cool, because the artwork was born in the office. The name was Sledgehammer, and then it became Mandaria in Spanish, just to add a little twist to it. The logo was born in the office. This is all within a span of 15, 20 minutes. We fly to the Dominican Republic. I told my dad to start working on something. By the time we left, the blend was done. It was the quickest blend we've ever done. And it's been a home run, so much so that it's now full-on production. It was going to be limited edition to recoup losses. Now it's part of the core line, and we're thinking about expanding. So who knew, right? And I would have never come out with that cigar, ever. Maybe the blend, perhaps, sometime, but the name and the whole, all of it behind it, but for this misfortune. So it's very bittersweet. Yeah.
Now, I will add to that, the La Mandaria that we have on the website actually is the limited edition version of the cigar still. So there's not a lot of it there. So if you're thinking about it, now is the time. Tony, one of our guys here, asks a great question. What core values does Cuevas need to keep versus what core values will you need to change to last another 5 generations in this industry?
Oh, wow. Work ethic and honesty, for sure. I think those core values have to stay. We are 100% behind the product, and I say this openly whenever the conversation comes up. If you go if today you buy a box and you told Christopher, hey, listen, this one was plugged, or God forbid anything, whatever, I replaced it. And I replaced no questions asked, because ultimately I want to stand behind the product, and I trust that cigar smokers understand and that a lot goes into this. It's a man-made product, and they're going to be honest as well. What our nice point of people cigar smokers are as a whole, and we all experience that when we go to shops, right? Everybody shakes everybody's hand, everybody's cool. The values that need to change last and five generation, that's a good question. I don't know if anything really needs to change in terms of core values. I know I'm not very techie. I made that very well known to Chris today. I may have to change that as I go along, but I don't know. You're the guy who has to go. I'll be dead in about 5 years or so because I'm old as hell. So he's a vampire. What do you think should change going forward? Core values.
Well, to tell you the truth, and this bounces back on the COVID-19 situation. I think a lot of things going forward as things start slowly opening up or changing in the sense where, for example, we're doing a lot of podcasts like this, things of this nature. So it would fall along more so just being up to date, being there with people, keeping them updated, letting them know that we're not just a brand, but we're also very much family people as the people smoking the cigars. It's something that me and my father have talked about and we've been working on as well. I'm definitely putting myself out there, the best foot forward. And with everything going on, including technology, like my father just mentioned, we hope to do a lot more podcasts in the future going forward. It'll be something that'll become part of the norm.
You're always welcome. Whenever you want to do one, just hit us up.
You got it. But Tony, I don't know what core values would change. I mean, I think that ones that we're using right now, are implementing and we live by, are pretty much, I think, probably the ones you live by and the research I probably live by. So, family, honesty, work ethic, pretty much that's about it.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason we love you. We think we share a lot of the same values. For example, what you said, we stand behind our product 100%. One of the main things that we scream actually is, if you ever have an issue, if one of the sticks came cracked, I don't know, if you didn't like the taste even, or whatever, just hit us up. No question. We'll send you something else. We'll replace it. We've never had an issue with Casa Cuevas, by the way, but it happens with other brands, with super high-end brands too.
Sure.
And it's what we're all selling is not just tobacco leaves. We're selling an experience. We're selling ourselves and what we believe in the community, and that's part of the reason that we really love you and the brand that you have.
Thank you. Yeah, and I want people out to understand, if you've never been to a factory and you're able to go to one, it doesn't matter if it's in Honduras, Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, and you see the process of creating these things that you are smoking right now. The number of hands it touches, I'm sure you've heard the number a million times before, right? The number of hands it touches. And in the process it's made, it's still very much a man-made product. You can time warp someone from the 19th century into a cigar factory now, and if they were wrapping cigars, and that's what they were doing in the 19th century, they'll know exactly what to do now in the 21st century. I mean, it's one of these things that even the way we've met, right, over the course, it's a handshake, it's face-to-face. It's still that very much old school thing. So things happen sometimes, and as much quality control as you want to keep, look at that, it's going great. I'm glad I keep showing it. Even that, I mean, things are going to happen. So I always say this as a manufacturer, I'm very forgiving of my fellow manufacturers of cigars when there's a flaw in construction, because that doesn't mean that it's a bad cigar. It was rolled poorly. And if you've watched these guys roll, they get into a rhythm. So any given moment, any given day, they may roll 300-400 cigars. And if something's off, you've got 400 sticks out there that are bad, essentially. They may pass muster in terms of a draw master. They'll draw, but maybe they're a little too soft in areas or whatever, and so you'll get a canoe, or it'll burn hot, or little things that will happen to you. This is crap. Give it another chance, guys. We're not talking just about mine. We're talking in general. Whatever cigar. Somebody gives you a cigar, don't just sit. Now, you can sit there and say, I don't like it because I don't like the flavor. That's different from the cigar being just a turd. There's a difference there. So be a little more forgiving. Anyway, not only me, everybody.
Yeah, no, I agree. that's what part of our process for inclusion is smoking a cigar 3 times each. So each sample gets smoked 12 or 14 or 15 times sometimes before we send it, because there's been so many times where I picked up a cigar and it was just, by whatever reason, it's the first time I've ever smoked that brand and it was plugged or it doesn't smoke right. But I have a hard time, Ben has a hard time, David has a hard time saying, oh, that's a bad cigar, just because the first time. So we test it 3 times. Now, if we come up against a cigar that smokes bad 12 times, that's when we go, no, if there's a problem at the factory, there's a problem with the storage, some sort of issue. And the other thing that I want to add to that, when you guys are going through your brick and mortars, and not you guys, but like everyone that's watching, if they're not maintaining the humidor appropriately, that has a lot of reflection on how well those cigars are gonna smoke. And so, if you can see an RH monitor or you can see a temperature, check it and see, because you might be smoking a good cigar that's been maintained poorly. There's so many variables that go into these cigars because they're handmade products. So we're huge proponents of not judging a cigar until you've tried it a couple times in a couple different variables, because you never know. You never know. Or if you ate jalapeno poppers earlier in the day, don't hate on the flavor of that cigar because you screwed your palate up.
But mostly, especially when you're buying online, or even if you're buying at a store, sometimes the rule of thumb is they say let it rest for a week or two. Let everything adjust, and that's a good rule. If you have everything and it's in the right humidity and temperature, and usually you won't have any issues. But not always.
But it happens, right? And I've also noticed that as time has gone on, how many times do you smoke a cigar and it's just a phenomenal moment, right? You're in a good setting, you're in a good place, and it just tastes like heaven. And you smoke it again. It's not that it's bad, but it's not quite as good as it was at one time when you were having that moment. So
yeah. I chase that moment, right? Like when I have that moment, I chase it. I don't know about other people, but yeah.
I do. When I become aware of it, I go, wow, this tastes really damn good. Let me really savor this, because it may not taste quite as good next time I smoke it. And I'm a big proponent of smoking other brands. I'm a big proponent of smoking other people's stuff because I'm a cigar smoker. I like cigars. And if I'm really handcuffed to my own damn brand only, I'm missing out on a world. So, yeah, absolutely.
So we got some more questions coming in. We have Charlie. Charlie's hails from the Great White North in Canada.
Wow.
He asks if you use any Medio Tempio in any of your blends.
No, and I don't even know what that reference is. So you've caught me on that one, Charlie.
All right, Charlie, clarify your question below.
Elaborate a little bit would be great. So yeah, I've never.
Morris says you're lying. Carlos, I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's see. What else do we have here? Getting some questions. John wants to know, when is Alec going to grow his hair like his dad's?
Alec is trying desperately to avoid the fate of genetics. although my dad, there you go. Hey, great mind. My dad has a head of hair, but then some of his brothers are just like me. Some of my cousins are like me. Some of my cousins, so it's weird the way that works. But hey, this is it. It is what it is, man.
Maybe I'm prolonging the inevitable, but as it stands, I want to keep my hair intact going forward.
There's so many solutions for that now that anybody that doesn't want to sport that can probably avoid it.
Yeah, I agree.
Brian asks, Louis, do you offer factory tours in the Dominican Republic? Okay, we already answered that. Naturally, once COVID crap passes. Yes, of course he does. But let them know before you're coming, and they'll do something for you.
That's what you got to do, Brian. You got to let us know you're going to be there. And if I'm not there, my dad's always there. If I happen to be there, even better. And essentially, you become a guest of ours. So you walk in there, we'd expect you, and I'll give you the tour. And if we're able to, and we can squeeze it, maybe I'll take you to the factories where they make the boxes as well, and where they make fans. So, yeah, absolutely, man.
Let me ask you a question. We ask it most of our guests. I don't know if anybody asked it this time, but you're a big, some brands that come on, they are big fans of themselves.
Okay.
Which is very understandable, and I agree with that. But you just mentioned that you love smoking all kinds of cigars. So can you give us a few of your favorite ones at this time? I know this stuff changes.
Well, at this time, Jack Trevino and I are really, really good friends. As a matter of fact, we'll be having dinner at his house tomorrow. And Jack is the sales director for Espinosa Cigars. And Eric and I are friends. So if you look at my personal humidor here in the house, I have a good assortment of Espinosa cigars. I'm a fan of the Espinosa. The Oscuro, my wife likes the original Naranja a lot. So I smoke that. I like the Oliva Milanos quite a bit. If I'm at a shop and they're not carrying my stuff, I'll go for that. I'll usually pick that up. If I, let's say, have a good steak dinner somewhere and I'm somewhere, whatever city, and I don't want to smoke my own cigar and I go to a shop, and I'm not sure what to smoke, a go-to that's always a home run for me is the Padron 64. I enjoy that cigar a lot.
Can't go wrong with that.
There's some cigars that I always find consistent. They're good. I enjoy them. And those are three that I can think off the top of my head that, I can walk into any humidor and say, okay, I'm good smoking that and pick it up and be comfortable. So how about you? At least you smoked a hell of a lot more than I have in terms of, because you worked at that game.
Yeah, like,
That's
what do you smoke?
I can't go out of my way to go.
Let me grab a cigar, excuse me.
I can't go out of my way to go and say that I have a personal favorite or a go-to. I think, as my father mentioned a little while ago, that there's a million great stuff out there to go ahead and pick up from. And with that in mind, the ones that I went to the most, at least when I was working at Neptune, and I still smoke very much so to this day. For example, the Aladino Lancero, the first ever natural, phenomenal cigar. I always go back to this because I think it's one of the best Connecticut that there are out there. It's the Rose of Sharon by Southern Raw. Absolutely adore that stick as well. There's quite a bit. The Rose Gold Banker by H. Upman, that's a phenomenal one also. I love the Melania series from Oliva. That is also a go-to. There's quite a bit. I can go on and on. There's been a lot of phenomenal sticks that I've smoked, and it's the same thing. Yeah, it's interesting though because, for example, the Oliva Melanio was one of these cigars, going back to that portion of the conversation, that I picked up and originally didn't enjoy. I don't know what it was at that moment, but I picked it up a week after, and I absolutely agree with the cigar. So it goes back to picking up a cigar, giving every cigar at least a second chance or third chance, because you never know what the flaw could be, and it could just be that one cigar in particular out of the box. So,
let me change the question a little bit, and I like backing you guys into a corner if I can. If you're stranded on an island, okay, and you can only smoke one cigar for the rest of your time there, you have a crate of these, and that's all you have. But they're not Cuevas cigars.
Oh, wow.
What are they?
Wow. That is a tough question. Well, you know what? I'm going to take the high road, and I'm going to support Eric, and I'm going to say the Espinosa Oscuro because it's a safe answer, right? But I had to answer for my Cuevas line right away. But yeah, I think that would be it. I'm good with that.
What's the Cuevas line answer?
La Mandaria. Sledgehammer. I love that damn stick. I love that stick. I don't have any with me today. The warehouse is chock full of them, but I thought my humidor had them. But man, I love that cigar. I do.
All right. Alec?
Wow. You really did back me into it. I would say,
Viva la Vida Lanceros. Okay, that's a good answer.
I think, man, if I was stranded on an island, I would go on ahead and say by Crown Head, the La Creme. That was a smooth cigar when I first picked it up, and it was one that I would always recommend to customers if they were trying to find a medium or full body, but more on the full body type of tier. In terms of a nice stick that still carried a smoothness and consistency that really just had a wonderful note to it. I think if I was on an island, it would be that cigar, hands down. Yeah.
I have a follow-up question, Alec. Just because it's been hanging here in the questions. Show us your kicks, man. We hear that you're a big sneakerhead.
He's wearing flip-flops.
Well,
We're home.
Denise threw you under the bus.
Oh my God.
The big sneakerhead actually is her brother. Her brother Chris. Chris.
Oh, Chris is okay.
Shout out
Okay.
to Chris. Chris has a stupid amount of shoes. It's ridiculous.
So,
That's his thing. God bless him. God bless him.
Jeff Jack's next question is a great opportunity for a commercial. His question is, why did they decide to give us 7 sticks with 20? That's a fantastic deal. And that deal is, if you go to luxurycigarclub.com and you buy any 20 Casa Cuevas cigars, including some of the La Mandaria limited editions, which we still have in stock, I think, we're going to give you 7 sticks with your purchase. If you purchase any 5 Casa Cuevas cigars, we're going to give you 2 sticks with your purchase. Don't forget to get your questions in for the Cuevas guys. And if you have questions for Ben and I, you're more than welcome to ask those too, but you probably know more than you want to know about us already. So make sure to do that. Kevin says we should do a Luxury Cigar Club Fall 2021 Dominican Republic Cuevas tour. They have signed us up for a lot of tours in the past few weeks, so it's gonna be a big bill, but we're gonna get it done. What else? I'm just looking for another question here. I'm looking. You guys talk amongst yourselves while I find one.
You're reading for questions, huh?
Yeah.
There's a lot going on the side of the screen. There's a lot going on the side of the screen.
Here's one from Kevin. Have you had any hands-on experience with any of the process from growing, harvesting, fermenting to rolling? If yes, what would be your favorite and least favorite kind of pieces of the process?
Yeah, my least favorite is the rolling because I can't do it to save my life. I'm terrible at rolling and I'm terrible at wrapping. It's fun, but I'm brutal at it. So I really don't enjoy it. The fermenting aspect of it. The growing and the harvesting, I had some hands-on in the 80s, only because that's when my dad and my uncle had those fields. So I saw it going on, but I was in high school. I really wasn't into it. I wasn't really paying attention. The fermenting, though, my father, the first factory that he and I had together, there was a separate building, and part of what we were doing is buying uncured tobacco and then fermenting it, using portions of it, and then the other portions that were fermented, we're selling it. That is an art in and of itself. That is an art in and of itself. Between the temperature changes, the amount of times you have to change the leaves over and over again. I don't say that I know how to do it. I wish my father were here right now. He's about a block and a half away, but he's not here right now. But my dad can talk forever about the process of fermenting, growing, planting the seed. I mean, he was born with a tobacco. They were literally born on a farm, a tobacco farm. But that fermenting process, the level of expertise to make it right is really, really incredible. And I would assume that some folks would, in a very technical way, and those sorts of, I don't know, machines and gadgets that can help you do it. But if you do it the old-fashioned way, well, wow. I mean, you've got to stay on top of temperature, humidity, the turnover. By the time you put it into the press, I mean, there's just a tremendous that goes into it. Talking about the press, where you put the bales in, right? There's just a lot that goes into it. But my dad even tells me stories about my grandfather would pick up a leaf and say, okay, this leaf, by virtue of whatever was on either side, was planted when the moon was full, or when there was a half moon, or that kind of thing. I mean, we're talking, and I'm sure he's not alone. The Placenses did probably the same thing. I'm sure Ryan did the same thing. It's fascinating the way these folks that grew up in this do it. So that fermenting is
like magic.
Yeah,
the tobacco whisperer. Right?
Yeah.
Alec, what about you? Have you been involved in any of the production process?
Unfortunately, I have not. The most that I have seen to this point is rolling. However, I would like to go on ahead and see the growing and harvesting. Pardon me. The harvesting aspect of it. I find that to be very interesting, and I know it's something that's relatively tedious. But as my father said, there's a lot that goes into creating a good cigar and cigars in general. And it's something that I would like to very much take a peek at when I have the opportunity.
Yeah, bottom line is great tobacco that is not fermented correctly, and you're done. You're done. I mean, it was one of the issues with San Andres. My father was reluctant to use San Andres in our line because he had bad experiences with it, and he wasn't happy with the way the quality of the product was coming over. at least the Dominican Republic from Mexico, and eventually other companies got into it, and the way they fermented really made a big difference. The Olivas out of Tampa, they're phenomenal. Talking about the Tampa Olivas, if you guys are familiar with it, there's a tobacco growing Oliva family, and there's a tobacco manufacturing Oliva family, not to be confused. So two separate people, same last name, right? When they got into it, we bought a lot of tobacco from them. Their fermentation process is amazing, and they get tobacco from all over the world. So, you know, a lot is to be said for the fermentation process. And now that we're into this, I'm going to piggyback on this. I bring this up as often as I can because it irks me. If you're a wine drinker out there, yeah, you grab a 2015 vintage of X, and it's phenomenal. And then you grab a 2017, and it's not quite as good, but you'll forgive it. It's still good. It's still X, right? Doesn't taste as good because 2015 was amazing, and 2017 it was drought or this or the other. But yet you'll grab a cigar, your favorite cigar, and 7 years from now you want to pick up that same brand and smoke the exact same thing again, forgetting that just like grapes, droughts,
It's impossible.
you know, too much rain. There may have been pests that came in. I mean, there's a lot of things that nutrients in the soil, a lot of stuff that goes into it. But people go, oh, it's not as good as the one I smoked 5 years ago. So let me abandon and go to another brand. Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between complete change and then that nuance in change, because it's a God-made thing, folks. It's not a.
That's why I always say, if people do like a cigar now, I always say pick up a box,
Yeah,
keep a box, because when you want it next time, it might be different.
it might be different.
It's organic, and besides the fact that it's organic, 300 hands. You know, maybe some, you know, the fermentation was a little different. Maybe, you know, obviously it's been a few years. Maybe it's a different role. You know, the whole factory chain. You never know. So it can be very, very different. So if you like something now, get a stash of it.
Yeah. Get a corner on that market, because ultimately the tobacco runs out and you're buying another crop. And that crop may be completely different. Even it's still quality, but it's just not the same quality. Again, the adage I use is, or the analogy I use is that wine analogy. You know, it's the same vineyard, but the grapes aren't just the same because climate change, right?
Because one of the major differences I would say is that when you pick up a box of whatever, it doesn't have the year on it usually, unless it's a limited edition, unless it's you know, that's the thing, this year, that year. Because most regular production cigars just have the logo. The cigars, they'll look the same, they'll probably smell the same every year, but you have no real indication. Cubans do, right? Cubans have the production year on every box, if I'm not mistaken, and production month. But regular, you know, most of the domestic cigars we have here have no indication of when they were manufactured, how long they've been sitting. So maybe you should start doing that.
Maybe it should. Actually, I've been thinking about doing something like that. I think there's something to be said for vintages in tobacco and vintages in cigars, just as there's something to be said for vintages in other things, right? So, yeah, I agree. Maybe we'll do that going forward.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that to myself, that I would love to see vintages on cigars. Maybe not on bands, but at least on boxes.
Yeah.
Because the crops do change, and I know some blenders will blend adjust when they get which you guys do great. So you still try to. I'm assuming you guys have a big pile of the first blends, and when you're blend adjusting, you go and smoke it and make sure you have all the notes and flavors right, and then you go through and blend adjust it. So some companies do address that, but certain crops you just can't get that flavor ever again. You know what I mean? If it was just perfect or spot on, but it's still nice to know. So Charlie clarified his question. The Medio Tempio is the top leaf on the cigar, just above the Ligero. It grows every 3 to 4 harvests and is usually discarded. It's the main leaf in the Vejique, is what he says. I can't guarantee that's accurate, but it sounds pretty informative and accurate.
It sounds informative. When we buy filler, we will stick to, and we're talking filler here at this point. We will stick to Ligero, Seco, and Viso, right? Libre Pie is what's at the bottom. Let's try Libre Pie is way, way at the bottom. And just based off of that, we wind up getting what we want. So the medio tempo that he's speaking of here, I've never heard the terminology. Chances are, yes, we probably use it only because it's been packaged as something else. So what I'm trying to tell you is, if that leaf is grown in a harvest from Nicaragua, and we're using Nicaraguan tobacco in our blend, it's sold to us as manufacturers as ligero or seco or whatever it may be, and you essentially you're done. They never use that terminology, at least not in Dominican, not in Honduras, not in Nicaragua, not at all. But thank you for the information. I think it's pretty cool.
That's cool. Rick G wants to know what your favorite region for tobacco is. That goes for.
That's a good question. You know what? We're a Dominican factory, but I always say that we would make the same cigars where we were in Honduras and Nicaragua, because we're a blended Scotch, right? We're not a single malt. So as a result, we have Dominican tobacco, but if you look at my my core line, Mexico on the outside, the wrapper, and then inside you've got Dominican tobacco, Nicaraguan tobacco, tobacco from U.S. Pennsylvania, and tobacco from Colombia. So 5 countries, 1 cigar. If I had to pick one region, I would probably say Nicaragua, only because I like the strength of the tobacco, and they ultimately can give you good wrapper as well. The Dominican, the wrapper there is hit and miss. I know, for instance, the success with it with the Opus, but ultimately, when I look at the Dominican, I'm looking more at filler and certainly binder. Like Olor Dominicano is a phenomenal binder. We use it a lot. I think it's great. But wrapper-wise, I would never go to Dominican, whereas Nicaragua, I may actually pick up a wrapper from there and maybe work with it. A lot of times you look at areas like Ecuador. Ecuador gives you wrappers that are phenomenal. Everybody uses Ecuadorian wrappers all sorts of ways.
I love them.
Right? But unfortunately, nobody ever smokes an Ecuadorian puro because they don't give you anything worthwhile in terms of filler. So you can use Ecuador for binder, you can use Ecuador for wrapper, it won't give you filler. I think the Dominican is kind of like the opposite, barring the binder. And I think Nicaragua is kind of like the complete thing. Honduras, we barely or rarely use. I've used tobacco from Peru. That's been interesting and pretty cool. The other day we blended with tobacco from Burma. Go figure. We had a client that sent bales from Burma. The filler, nothing to write home about, but that wrapper looks a lot like Habano, and we really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, what we smoked were just puros using Burmese tobacco. But going forward, we have a couple bales of that wrapper. I'd like to play with it. By the way, I'm going on a tangent here. Part of the fear when you're creating a blend for anybody, including yourself, is availability of the tobacco. So if you get something that's too obscure, like I say Burmese tobacco, and I can't get my hands on any more than the 10 bales that we may have right now, and it's a home run, then I'm done. Right? I can't. So do you limit it to tobacco? You know,
a lot of companies do play with it and make a special.
It's going to happen. Yeah.
So they make little projects and little 1,000 stick productions and stuff like that.
You're right, but I mean, if you look at La Mandaria, right, the sledgehammer was supposed to be a limited run, and it caught fire, and it's been phenomenal. So from a business perspective, I wanted to keep going. So that's all acceptable stuff, right? So imagine you hit this home run with this tobacco and you go, oh my gosh, this is selling like hotcakes. I can't keep it. And that's it, because you can't get the tobacco anymore. And then, everything else after that you make, it's like, but it's never as good as that limited one. Can you make the limited one again? And I go, crap, I can't make the limited one because I can't get that tobacco. So we're always afraid of that. So anyway, favorite region, Nicaragua.
Let me ask you something about puros for a second. So would you consider making a puro blend more challenging or easier?
No, challenging. challenging. It's like cooking with one ingredient, right? This is, I step up to the factory and I have a cupboard full of different tobaccos that I can choose from. And so that makes it a lot more easy than I'm going to sit there and get tobacco from one country and I'm going to have wrapper, binder, filler all from that place. You can only interchange that filler in degrees, right? You can add more ligero, a little more viso, the seco. The binder's the binder, the wrapper's the wrapper. Even if you have different, you have sun-grown, you have a papao, or you may have a couple different types of binder, but you're still sort of handcuffed. I think it's much more difficult to get that nuance flavored, which begs the question: Americans are enthralled with Cuban cigars, right?
The forbidden fruit.
That's all it is in the end, right? I was born in a little island, right? I can rag on it a little bit. It's not the same as it was before '59, number one. Number two, none of those cigars are those chest busters that then in the States they want. So you want a cigar here, and the popular thing is I want one that's going to rip up my chest and my eyes are going to tear up. But boy, I love that Cohiba. I'm like, oh, okay, but flavor profiles are like opposite extremes. Where are you on this? And that essentially is a plural, right? Cuba does give you a plural. So I think with a plural, you have a tendency to maybe bring down the complexities and flavors that a lot of us are looking for when we're smoking a cigar. I think it limits your opportunity to make it more powerful, more spicy, a little sweeter. Yeah. So I think it's harder.
I like it. I like it. So,
I have a little complaint about the cigar I'm smoking. Actually, it barely lasted me an hour, so I need to replace it. I don't know if I need to send this one back, or you're gonna just send me a replacement.
You know what? The only ones of those that we have left are the Habanos. I've got in bundles. I don't have boxes, obviously. I've got, I think, 40 of them. Two bundles. 40 of them left. That's it. I can make more. Obviously. Yeah.
We're gonna start wrapping up here, guys. We have two more questions, and then we'll do a quick commercial, and then all the Luxury Cigar Club members are invited to a herf after this. I don't know if Luis and Alec can join us for a few minutes of that herf, but we hope.
Yeah. Then I'll go back there and grill and do all this stuff.
So Kevin asks, did you guys get into the family business because it's a family business, or because you had an aha moment and develop a passion for a cigar?
Wow. I got into it as a family business because it was a family business. So I've had other hats. I was a teacher, school administrator. I have a law degree. So I did different things throughout my life. But when my dad and my uncle were going to go those separate ways, revisiting that comment that I had earlier, as an only child, it was sad to see just 4 generations of this disappear. So it was family that inspired me. And all that I'll answer in a second. And the aha moment, no, I was already smoking cigars. I really enjoyed cigars. I was buying cigars. I was getting free cigars because we had a factory. So, it was something that I was really enjoying anyway, and I was passionate about it. But, I mean, truth be told, having the factory has been very successful, but the brand is really an uphill climb, man. It's tough. It's tough to make a living if you're just living it off the brand, right? So thank God I have the factory. I certainly wouldn't be doing this if I only had the brand and I tried to feed my family off of the brand 3 years into it. We're talking 5, 6, 7 years from now. Yes, I hope to be able to, but yeah, aha wasn't it. It was like, oh, geez, I should be doing this because I'm gonna make a ton of money. Negative. It was the passion for the family, and then I happen to like them a lot. So you can answer.
Alec, what about you?
Well, he actually couldn't have placed it any better. For me, like I said earlier, it was something that I've always been surrounded by because I was always going to the factory during the summertime. So it was just seeing my father enjoy the cigars, seeing my grandfather taste the cigars. And then it was actually a big part of it was my grandfather. Going back to it, when we were very, very young, he'd have me, and this doesn't, I promise you I had a lot of fun with it. It might not sound like it, but he had me go to the factory for hours at the bottom packaging cigars. So cigars for the people at the time. And I just had a blast with it. I was always surrounded by it. It was the aroma, but it was the whole notion that it was family. Because then it would come around to lunchtime, we'd all sit down, and it'd just be this family entourage. It'd be me, my father, my sister, mother, and my grandfather as well. We're all there just enjoying lunch together, having a blast. I think it was just that moment, that camaraderie, that lunchtime, for lack of a better term, that really, really got me infatuated into cigars. And Neptune's was the kicker that got me, more into like an expansion of cigars in terms of taste palettes. And then I just stuck with it going forward. It's a very big. We take a lot of pride in saying it's definitely a family.
It's family.
It
It's
very much
family.
is.
Yeah.
Part of your identity.
The last question of the night, which I love this question, is for Chris. What would it take for you to shave your beard? And for Ben, what would it take for you to grow a beard like Chris?
I'll answer both. I can answer both.
Yeah, answer.
First thing, I'm going to share in the group, I'm going to share a picture of Chris without his beard. You guys decide if you want to see him like that. And for me, this is like 3 weeks. I don't know. It just doesn't grow. I'm giving it all I have.
Listen, we're just going to go over the deals one more time, guys. Remember, you purchase any 5 Casa Cuevas cigars, you're going to get 2 free. That's only good while we're live. So if you have a card active, make sure to hit that checkout button. If you buy any 20 Casa Cuevas cigars, you're going to get 7 free. All of that's available at Luxury Cigar Club. Luis and Alex, start thinking about your favorite question because we're going to announce those winners soon. But everyone that watched today, thank you so much for joining us.
Brandon Wells, just shout out.
I see it.
What's up,
how are you, buddy?
What's up, mechanic?
Brandon's there, cigar mechanic.
Oh, what's up, Brandon Wells? How's it going, brother? And then next week we have, what is next week? We have Ian from Dapper Cigars on the show next week. Ian's a great guy. Dapper Cigars is a really nice boutique. We sent what was it called? La Madrina, almost La Mandaria. I almost confused the two cigars. We sent the La Madrina not too long ago. Fantastic cigar. I think I called it a chocolate bomb. Or no, I called it Death by Chocolate. It is a full body stick, but full of chocolate. So that's next week at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be doing some giveaways and some cool stuff like that. Thank you to Alec and Luis for taking a little bit of time out of your evening and doing this with us. We really appreciate you.
We appreciate you guys so much and everybody that chimed in and took time today to do this. We're always very humbled by the fact that anybody even reaches out to us or people take time out of their schedule to just hang out and learn about the family and the cigars. And thank you. I mean, it does not go unnoticed, folks. It does not go unnoticed, and certainly we're always humble. Always.
Just before we leave, do you want to choose a question each that you felt was
Yep, best? That's what they're doing right now.
Yeah, we're thinking about it. I got mine. I like the core values question because it stumped me, and I could answer the first half but not the second half.
That was Tony.
That was Tony. He's not allowed to win. He's not allowed to win.
Tony's not allowed to win?
He's not allowed to win.
Wow. Let me think then. Let me think.
Alec, what about you?
I got one. I got another one. Go ahead. You go.
I'm currently in between 2, but there can only be 1. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to go with Rick G. Rick G with the region question because it's very interesting, and it also led to the follow-up question of just making a full-on puro cigar. There's a lot that goes into it and having a bunch of different leaves in the stick, and I thought that was a very out there question, one that is brand new. I've never quite really, we've never really been asked that question, not to my knowledge.
No, we've never been asked. If I have to pick a second question, I go with the fermentation question because I went out there for a while, and it was cool talking about it, and so I think that was Kevin that asked that question. There's a question about the fermentation process, and yeah.
All right.
Go ahead. No, but for what it's worth, if possible, Charlie, who asked me that question, educated me. He's from Canada regarding the whole leaf thing and that term that I had never heard of before. I'd like to send him a T-shirt from Miami up there. So if he gives you his information,
that's nice.
Yeah, we'll give him a T-shirt. We'll send him a T-shirt.
Okay, so Rick, G, and Kevin, just send us a message on Instagram or email us at info@luxurycigarclub.com and let us know you won. If you don't do that, you're not going to get your shirt because I don't know. Well, I know Kevin, but Rick, G, I'm not sure who you are just yet. So
We know
make sure
Charlie.
to message us on Instagram. Charlie, reach out to Casa Cuevas on Instagram. Is that okay?
Yeah, and you can also email me. It's easy. It's Luis, Luis, my name, Luis, at Casa Cuevas Cigars with an S.com. You must put the word cigars, but I won't get it. So Luis at CasaCuevasCigars.com. Email me with your information, your size, and your mailing address, and we'll get that shirt out to you in Canada. And we have friends in Canada. My daughter's boyfriend lives in Canada, so we visit Canada all the time. So yeah, go Canada. We're good.
Awesome.
All right,
Again,
so
guys,
see-
thank you so much. Luxury
see
Cigar
everybody in
Club
a few
Herf,
minutes.
members only Herf is going on after this. So we will make sure you guys get a link for that. I'll get that out to you here in just a minute. And again, thank you guys. Remember to follow us on YouTube, subscribe to us because we're doing these things every week. We got a lot of new stuff coming out. If you want to like the video, like it. We would appreciate that as well. And thank you guys again, Louis and Alex, for taking the time out of your day for being here and for doing what you guys do for the community.
On
Thank
an
you.
empty
Thank you,
stomach,
guys.
no less.
Thank you so much.
My bird came.
Thank
Jake was worried about the bird. And finally,
Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Good night,
See you in a
everybody.
minute.